We are here. Ruby's here. Ruby's here, so I think we are here.
Where's Dennis? We lost him.
Oh, yeah.
W imieniu polskich linii lotniczych LOT Sojuszu
Polish city, I mean, is trying to be, because the biggest Polish city is located, unfortunately, not in Poland. That used to be Chicago. Especially in 50s or in 60s, as probably you are familiar with the city.
Christ and the love of God and the communion of the Holy Spirit be with you all.
Polish.
Thứ nhất anh Peter chụp hình với bạn cũng có hình trong này. Anh chụp hình cho người khác nhưng mà tôi có hình ảnh trong video.
Hello. Hola.
Like Spanish.
Our local guide here.
Hola.
Ola gonna lead us, and I will be the last one. Okay, so
Sweet person.
I will try to collect all of you. Right.
Together. So welcome in Warsaw, ladies and gentlemen. We will start our walk through the old town. It will be not too long, so don't look so horrified. Because here we cannot drive. We can only walk through the old town. And Warsaw was built 700 years ago, in the beginning of the 14th century. And when Warsaw was built, it was just a little town. Nobody thought that it would be a capital of Poland. The capital was in Krakow, and Warsaw was a small place for 300 years. This man who is standing on top of the column right there, Sigismund III, Zygmunt III, he is the favorite king of all Warsaw people. He moved the capital here from Krakow, and in his time the castle here was enlarged because it existed but it was much smaller. So this is the castle, this big building right there, and that was the official royal residence in Warsaw, and it was also the seat of the parliament. So the front wing with the clock tower was the place where the parliament had meetings, and the rest of the building was used by the royal family. And this is why the kings didn't want to live here permanently, as there were always many politicians in the castle. So they used to live in the castle mainly in the winter, and the summers they spent outside Warsaw for private residences. And what is important to remember, we'll talk a lot about destruction and reconstruction in Warsaw, is the city was completely destroyed during the Second World War. And when we say completely, in Warsaw it means that 85% of all the buildings in today's city center were ruined. And the old town was very badly destroyed. We can count here on one hand building, on one hand, buildings which survived, so it's all reconstructed according to old paintings and old photographs. And the old town was rebuilt very quickly. So by the end of the 50s, used to be the main gate to enter Warsaw. But in the 19th century, these fortifications were already neglected and partly destroyed, and people decided to get rid of them because they found them useless. And one last thing, when you look there, you can see the big stadium. This is the soccer stadium, which is the biggest in Poland. It was built specially for this year, as earlier this year in June, Poland and Ukraine organized the European Soccer Championship, Euro 2012. So we had the opening game here, a few other games, and this is just a national stadium, so nobody, it doesn't belong to any team, it's just the main one in Warsaw. Okay, let's go. What goes to Madam Kiri? And you are leaning against the smallest house in Warsaw. This little kiosk where we are selling newspapers and cigarettes, it has a separate address. So according to the law, it's a separate building. Of course, nobody lives there, but we have a special, document, special books for it. Okay, let's walk the aces in Warsaw. You will see such flag and lamps, flowers. So this is to commemorate people who were killed in public executions. Right behind me, you can see the monument, which is very important for Warsaw people. This is the monument dedicated to the Warsaw Uprising. So the fight for Warsaw from the Second World War. On the 1st of August 1944, Warsaw started the fight, and this uprising lasted 63 days, and it was the longest and also the most cruel battle in Polish history. The result of the Warsaw Uprising was the destruction of Warsaw and the death of many civilians. And what you can see
Ladies and gentlemen, the good news is that we will not walk anymore. Now we will be just driving around the city. So I'm very proud of you that you made it. And we are now in this area where during the Second World War the Jews used to live. Today Poland is very homogeneous in terms of nationality and religion, but before the war it was a different situation, and Warsaw had very big Jewish community. Every third person in Warsaw used to be Jewish in the beginning of the 20th century, and when the Second World War began, the Nazis decided to separate Jews from the other people. They organized areas where only Jews were allowed to live. They called them ghettos. And Warsaw ghetto was, everything which is on our right was in the ghetto. The park on the left was outside, but already this let's say part which is straight ahead of us was all inside the ghetto. So we are just on the edge of it. And before the war, the Jews lived in all parts of Warsaw. Here, majority of the inhabitants were Jewish, and that's why the ghetto was organized in this area. People who were not Jewish had to move away, and Jews from the rest of Warsaw had to move to the ghetto, which was quickly surrounded by the wall and closed. The ghetto was completely isolated from the rest of Warsaw. The living conditions were very bad here, and just in 1.5 years, 100,000 Jews died here because of hunger and epidemic diseases. We are approaching the square where you can find the main memorial to the heroes of the ghetto. So we will turn right into the trains which took them to the extermination camp. You are going to visit Auschwitz during your stay in Poland, but Warsaw Jews were sent to Treblinka, the camp which was closer to Warsaw. 300,000 Jews from Warsaw were killed in Treblinka in the summer 1943.